Brian Pritchard, FetcherNews.com, FYN reports. It's October in Blue Ridge, and you know what that means. It's election time. I'm here today with Donna Whitener, the mayor of Blue Ridge, and she's running for re-election, and her opponent is Michael Eaton, Post 5 councilman. Mayor Whitener, thank you for sitting down with us. You've in the last year completing your first term?
Correct.
And so tell us a little bit about your first term. Have you, you know, obviously 4 years ago when you said, I think I want to be mayor, and you ran for office of Blue Ridge, you had a thought then, and obviously after somebody is in the office, they may have a different thought. So has it changed the thought of why you wanted to be mayor 4 years ago than why you want to be mayor again?
Somewhat. 4 years ago when I went into business, of course, we'd had the big decline in the economy, so I was real concerned about the direction businesses were headed in our area, and I know that tourism is very important to our businesses in the city of Blue Ridge. And I wanted to make sure that tourism survived. That's how I keep people employed, that's how my family is employed, most of them, and I just want to make sure that we're very successful at that.
Well, let me ask you a question. All the candidates I've spoke to, we've discussed, and I want to discuss with you being the mayor, we've discussed the divide, and I don't know if I want to call it a divide, but it is, of the residents of Blue Ridge and downtown. Tell me how what has taken place downtown has benefited the residents, not the business owners of downtown, but what took place there. How's that benefited the residents outside in the city?
Well, as far as the residents, with the businesses being successful, of course, that creates more sales tax revenue. With more sales tax revenue, that gives us an opportunity to keep from having to raise their property taxes. The city has to run. We have to have so much money to operate, to have streets and lighting for the downtown streets. We have water crews. There has to be revenue coming in. And without the sales tax revenue, it would make it very difficult on our residents.
So in your term, taxes have not gone up?
No, and they're not going to go up as long as I can help it.
So, so without the downtown structure the way it was in the last 4 years, the residents may have seen fees or something as their revenue? I mean, it would have offset?
Well, they could have seen a rise in property taxes, but they're not going to. There's a couple of things that help. The sales tax is very important, and then the addition of the businesses. We went from 209 businesses in 2010, my first year in, to 437 businesses currently, with about 4 more starting to open. And one of those 4 is Walmart, which is going to bring a tremendous amount of sales tax revenue to the city of Blue Ridge.
So,
and to the entire county.
So you just said so there was 200, can you repeat that for me? There was 200, when you took office, how many businesses were there in downtown Blue Ridge?
209.
Okay, and now, how many are they now?
437.
Okay, how do you account for that increasing growth? And the reason I ask is I look at a lot of other areas in the state of Georgia and nationally. How do you answer for that rate of growth at the same time that outpaces actually national growth in businesses? How do you account for that? I mean, what do you think took place that made Blue Ridge such an exciting place to open a business?
Well, for one thing, the draw is the small town. People love our small town atmosphere. And Blue Ridge is the number 1 destination in the state of Georgia. They just got that designation just recently, and they're in the top 5 in retirement communities in the state of Georgia. So people love Blue Ridge. They love coming back to Blue Ridge. We have wonderful businesses downtown. They love to shop in those businesses. We have fantastic restaurants. A lot of people that I meet in other meetings or out of town, they tell me about my restaurants. They're constantly saying, I was up there, I visited Harvest, I visited Christy Lee's or the Black Sheep or Serenity or the Beanery or something, but I am constantly hearing about people making day trips or weekend trips just to visit our small downtown.
Okay, let me go on top of that with your small downtown. They like that. Let me follow that up. How do you continue to keep Blue Ridge that small downtown that the residents have enjoyed their whole life? I mean, we have senior citizens, we have a lot of residents in the city that have been there 30 years or longer. how do you keep that small downtown feel with the rate of growth that Blue Ridge has had? What's the plan for that?
Well, I'm really fortunate about the small town feel because Mayor Green, that was in office prior to me, and his council members put a couple of things in place that really helped. They did a wonderful job. They put zoning in place. So we have some zoning for our areas so that we shouldn't interfere into the residential areas. However, there are going to be times that those residential areas do turn into some commercial, but hopefully we can keep that separate. Have a great zoning board, have a great appeals board in place, and thank goodness they thought to do that while they were in office prior to the big growth of the city of Blue Ridge.
Well, let me say this. I've watched the streetscape project, and it's beautiful. You go downtown, the sidewalks, the streets and everything are beautiful. I'm just using a number, making it up. 70% of the people that go through there maybe higher on the weekend are not the residents. So do you feel as the mayor that the outlying areas of the city shared in their roads being paved, upkeep in their services? I mean, how do you feel services have been for the residents? Are their streets as well maintained as downtown? Are they as happy about their services?
I would think so. Those are two different pots of money. Of course, streetscape is T project money, which is backed by the federal government, which is shut down, so we hope those are going to keep coming. The other is backed by our sales tax dollar. That 1 cent of the sales tax that is given to the cities and counties, we get 6.3% of that. So that equates to about $250,000 at this point. With the projected revenues for next year, we're looking at between $325,000 to $350,000. The largest majority of that money goes out to the resident streets. So most of your T money that is used is for the downtown area. And there is some use. We paved a couple of roads that was actually out of the SPLOST, but the majority of our SPLOST money does go back to residents' roads. We also get some money from the LMIG, which is state money, and we just paved West Main Street with the LMIG money, which is another pot of money. So there's separate pots of money that are used for different things in paving. Okay, let me switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about some things that your opponent has said in several meetings and in an interview with me. So I want to cover some things that your opponent says. And explain to me what you think this means, because he says that the mayor of Blue Ridge, the mayor system is what is considered a weak mayor. Correct.
And a strong council, okay? And his accusation is you've not run it that way, that the council comes in at the last minute and finds out things that are paperwork or whatever, that they get phone calls and things are happening and they can't answer for it. I mean, I'm just saying these are general statements that he has recorded. I have recorded that he has said. So he says he wants to return it to a weak mayor system. So why would, and this is a current council person now, why do you think he sees it that way, or what do you think?
Well, we are a weak mayor system, but in all the training, the one thing that you learn about the weak mayor system is the mayor doesn't vote unless it's to break a tie, which has happened a few times because we do have a council member that's been very sick, and he's probably been out about 8 or 9 months, so there have been a couple of times I've had to break a tie. The other thing, if you read our charter, the mayor has administrative power, so you can't have, you know, they'll say too many chiefs and too many Indians, not enough chiefs. You know, it's somebody has to pick up and run the city. So Bill Sowers and I make a lot of the decisions, and a lot of those are done at the first of the year or during the budget process. You know, when we start sitting down with the budget, which I did yesterday, we talked about some of the things that we need to see happen in the next year. You know, some of the things that we've been continually doing. And the council does know that. I don't know if they forget, or, and another thing, it really helps if you attend all the meetings. We have a lot of discussions at the meetings about what happens. I think even Fetcher News is there most of the time on Tuesday morning at our workshop. We have 2 of those a month. So there's a lot of discussion. There's emails that go out to all of the council members. I think I have one council member that doesn't get email, but he gets a phone call. So.
Well, let me follow that up by our goal at VetcherNews.com FYM reports is just to get the voters the most amount of information to make their decision November 5th. And so what I'm hearing you say, which I do know, it's a 5-council panel,
Yes.
5 members, and you've been running for a long time with 4. And the reason there is 5 is so there's a tie-breaking vote without the mayor. If every council person is there, there would never be a mayor's vote.
So I have no voice if there's
Right.
always 5 council members there.
But you have to, as the executive of the city, you have to run the day-to-day.
The day-to-day operations with the city manager. And
Right.
if you look at the chart of the chain of command, you know, it is the mayor and then the city manager, and it shows the branches, and, you know, they all got a copy of the chain of command.
So what you're saying is the tie-breaking votes that you've made, for the most part, is because one of the council members has been ill, which we know who that is, and has been out for several months.
And that's
So-
unfortunate. You know.
Yes, it is. It is unfortunate, but it's still, the fact is it leaves 4. So when there's 2-2, you're breaking a tie.
That's correct.
Okay. And so let me move on to follow that up. He says the last time a paving, and I can't say the last time because he said that currently you did one, but the last paving bid that went out was in 2010 for the tennis courts. And then after that, no bids went out for paving until recently. So he continues, your opponent continues to say that you're not transparent. That's the thing that I hear, is you're not transparent, and this is an example. So like the paving issue that he keeps bringing up, can you answer that?
Well, we've sent several out for bid, and it depends on the amount of money, and it depends on the situation. If it's a maintenance issue, those don't typically go out to bid. And the one that he is complaining about happens to be one that's in front of some of his mother's property, and that one changed. It evolved because there were other issues as we got into the paving. There were drain issues, major storm drain issues. There were some sewer issues with that. So it changed what was going to happen in that project, and it didn't change till we got there and got everything tore up and found out there was a drain problem. So, you know, not everything fits the mold, but things that are crucial or big, we have bid those out.
Are you meeting the state requirements of bidding out projects?
We should be.
Okay. Well, that is, you know, now what is the recent project that you bid out?
Was the West Main Street, right in front of City Hall, from the red light there at McDonald's intersection.
So you did,
To Depot Street.
so your opponent says 2010, but he did say you just recently
That
bid
was
one out.
that was a large project, and that was a twofold project. It was actually the big money, which is state money that we received for it, and I didn't know the amount, but those roads were rated. We did that back almost 4 years ago. I guess I was in office maybe 3 or 4 months before we got a request to rate our roads. So we go in and describe the rating, whether it's webbing or cracks or potholes or cuts in our road. And we have a list that we continually go through. And that's one of the roads that was put on our LMIG list to get LMIG money for.
Okay, so when somebody bids, you validate the bid, and then you validate the vendor, and after that you award the bid. May I ask who the bid went to, this last one?
Johnson Paving.
And your opponent is aware and was involved in that process?
It was.
Okay, all right.
As a matter of fact, I don't think I was even at that bid opening. I think he was the one that opened those bids. I had to be out. I had a sick mother at that time.
Okay, now I want to bring this up because everybody is talking about this, and I want to know. The other day, it was 2-2. You broke the tie on renewing the ice skating rink. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's numbers out there that people are saying it lost $12,000. Can you share with me what it lost? Did it lose? What's the future of it? Why bring it back? Why you felt it should come back?
Well, it did lose $12,000, but remember, it's the first year, and I don't know too many businesses or too many events that have happened in town that have made a lot of money in their first year. Usually those events build. Even our Arts in the Park, which is one of our biggest events of the year, well, they do it twice a year now, spring and fall. They didn't make a lot of money in the beginning, but as it evolved, it's become a big money maker for the Arts Association. Blues and Barbecue is another event. They started out, they didn't make a lot of money, but they've done well. This last time, they had about 8,000 people that came to town for a one-day event. Out of that 8,000 people, besides the people at the event making money, our merchants downtown make money, and they love having those events. You saw people from the city of Blue Ridge, people from the county that attended that event that might not have come into the city of Blue Ridge, might have chose to shop somewhere else that day, but it brings people downtown. And the reason I broke the tie on that, we did lose money. We lost $12,000, and it was hotel motel money, which is our lodging tax, which has increased from about $45,000 when I went into office to almost $90,000 this year, so it's almost doubled. That money can only be used for either a public facility that we have, which is the farmers market. We spend 40% of it on our farmers market every year. And the rest of that has to go into some type of marketing or advertising for the city of Blue Ridge. The ice skating rink lost $12,000, and I feel like most of that was lost in marketing. And I don't think it was a loss. I think it was a win-win for everybody, because people that came to Blue Ridge, whether they came for the ice skating rink or whether they were already staying in Blue Ridge, found something else to do while they were here. They had another source of entertainment, whether they were going to go hiking or biking or the lake. Well, I guess you really go to the lake during that time of year unless you're a fisherman, maybe. But they also had another attraction. They went ice skating. Had lots of the restaurants tell me that people would bring their children, say that they'd been ice skating. They came into town for the day. They went ice skating and had dinner. They came into town, went ice skating, and shopped in the stores. The merchants are on board. Our residents are on board for the ice skating rink. I had numerous residents that don't skate. These are ladies that are in their 50s, 60s, but they go down there and watch the kids ice skate. They enjoy seeing them. So I feel like it's a win-win for the city. I'm sorry my council members don't own a couple of them, but I think any attraction we can bring to Blue Ridge, we need to be bringing it. We need to keep the edge that we have.
So let me ask you a question. You brought up a couple of things that I want to expand on. You brought up Blues and Barbecue, and you brought up Arts in the Park. Has the city in the past, or do they currently fund any of that?
We have. We usually give the Arts Association money each year. We actually allow a little bit out of our budget for the arts, out of our lodging tax money, not out of our general fund. It doesn't come from taxpayers. It actually comes from
What about the Blues and Barbecue?
I think the first year we gave them some money, $2,500 if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know that number. I didn't know I was going to need to know it. It might have been.
No, I understand, but you brought that up, and I'll tell you why I asked, okay? I don't mean to interrupt you, Mayor, but I'll tell you why I asked that. Because one of the comments I get is, on the ice skating rink, is why is a private business getting funds from the city? And that is one of the questions that comes up. So whether people agree the ice skating rink should be here or not, why is the city, is it a private business?
It's a private business, but we're a partner with that private business, so it's a little different than others because we make a percentage off of that business in the end. So we have a vested interest in making that ice skating rink successful because that's how we're going to reap some of the money back for what we will be spending. So I think it's a
So there's a vendor
effort.
and there's the city, and you make a percentage of the profits.
Yeah, so Arts in the Park, when they do a festival and they rent out a booth space, they don't get a percentage from their booths that they rent out. They just get their rent fee. We get a percentage back, and the money that we use for advertising and some of the other things can't come from hotel motel money. It does not come out of our taxpayers' pockets, not our residents' taxpayers or our business taxpayers. It comes from the lodging tax, which the Lodging Association is very supportive of the ice skating rink because the cabin rentals at the hotels tell me, I don't know that I could say, none of them tracked it to say, did you stay with us tonight because we have an ice skating rink in Blue Ridge? But they did tell me that a lot of their people that were in their cabins said, hey, we went to the ice skating rink, it was wonderful, we had a great time. So,
Well, you know, in the fairness and disclosure, I want to make sure that the viewers know. Last year at the Light Up Blue Ridge, the Christmas tree and Santa train, I was there.
mm-hmm.
Okay, and I came up and I watched people ice skating, and I watched a gentleman that was cutting a story. They were doing the best hidden treasures in Georgia, and Blue Ridge was highlighted, and the people that were doing that story were ice skating and they were filming. I was there. You could not get a better Christmas atmosphere. So I want to say that's personal to me. I was there. You just couldn't ask for a better atmosphere Christmas. But atmosphere versus the money you make, there's a difference there. There's the the feeling the next morning. If the city lost $12,000, did the vendor that provided the rink, did he lose anything? Or he or she, I don't know who it is.
He didn't lose anything because, in the end, he actually wrote us a check for about $4,500, $4,700.
Okay.
So that was a percentage of the profits. And,
So there was a profit, and you did get a percent of the profit.
We did get a percentage
so
of the
just
profit.
in the first year, it didn't cover the initial, let's just call it, marketing of it.
Mm-hmm.
And getting the word out or something in the first year.
Marketing, and then there has to be a tent over that to keep the coolness down. You can't have the ice exposed to the weather, whether it's rainy or hot. And so we help pay for the tent.
All right, well, what about the, lack of a better way to put it, what about the argument of the farmer's market? It has a roof over it already, there's plenty of parking, it could be bigger. What about that argument that comes up?
I love the farmer's market. I wish I had the magic thing that could make that work. It's tough. When I was a child, the farmer's market was very successful here. I remember truck farmers being there. My dad, we went there every weekend, but it's really tough to bring that back. We have some people working with us to do that, but it's about the location. Just like any other business, McDonald's probably, they want on one of the four corners at the busiest intersection, CVS. If we don't have it in a place where we have crowds of people, which we have tons of people that visit downtown Blue Ridge. We have almost 80,000 people a year that ride the train. And not everybody that comes to Blue Ridge rides the train. Some of them just come to shop or dine or stay in a cabin or hike or do one of the outdoor activities. So it gets so much attention by being downtown. If we could ever pull that whole corridor in down to the farmer's market, that might be a good place for it. And the building and facility is great. It's in the wrong location at this point.
Okay, I don't want to stay on the rink any longer based on time constraints here this morning. Clearly, you think that if given time, like everything else that has come to Blue Ridge, festivals, different events, that this would be a success if given the time to do it.
Anything in Blue Ridge can be a success.
Okay. All right, let's talk about infrastructure. Tell the people about your next 4 years, if elected, how they could see their water and their infrastructure taken care of. Recently here, a lot of the water pipes in the city are in the 70s. We had a water main break, which was in an unfortunate time, rainy season, and an area where it was draining off and hard to find. So everybody has admitted that this water main break that lost thousands of gallons of water in a couple hours just away from maybe being dry. I'm not really arguing that or saying, wanting to put words in your mouth on that, but we know the emergency it was. Everybody admits that this thing was in an area that was just hard to find. That being said, talk about how you can, in the next 4 years, ensure the citizens that you're working on the infrastructure of Blue Ridge for them.
Well, one of the other things that we're doing is back in '06, there was Mayor Green again. I'm going to be campaigning for him before I'm finished. He actually started a project with water upgrades. He applied for a grant, which we're getting a little over $4 million in grant, and then we have about a $13 million loan that will be coming with it, which will upgrade our plant, which is badly needed. Our plant is about 70 years old, maybe older than that. We have water lines that date back into the 40s. So those are in desperate need of being replaced or repaired. Not sure how easily we can repair some of those. We put in a new transmission line from Mineral Bluff. We put a new tank in Mineral Bluff, which is a million-gallon tank. We have a million-gallon tank going in at in Blue Ridge here, where our 500,000-gallon tank is. Lots of other lines are going to be replaced and repaired. Also with that, one of the things that I'm working on currently is getting master meters put in place. Because of the bad water leak we had, we realized that we didn't have enough master meters or valves to shut off so we could isolate the area. So when you have water lines all over Mineral Bluff and all over the city of Blue Ridge and you're looking for a leak, it can get very difficult because of the terrain. We've got, and this one happened to be going off down a kind of a bluff, and it was just far enough below the surface that we weren't seeing it on the surface. So the master meters and the valves will really help us be able to locate the area, and we'll be able to tell if we're losing pressure at the plant. So we have a huge project in place, and I would love to be able to see that completed. It'll go out for bid probably in January or February. They should start construction May, June, and should be completed within a year. And it's ARRA money and ARC money, so we've got to finish it. We've got to stay on board and make it happen.
So the residents of Blue Ridge, I understand it's important for the business owners, but the residents of Blue Ridge should feel comfortable that you have a plan for the infrastructure and you're dedicated to it.
Yes. It should be better for the residents than the business owners in this situation, because most of the business owners, the downtown area already has new pipe. They've already replaced a lot of those water lines, but a lot of the water lines that are not replaced, which we've done several in the last 4 years, are out on the remote, the back roads. So a lot of those will be upgraded, especially the Mineral Bluff area. There's a lot of really old pipes there. And there's going to be another loop that will be tied in, so it'll actually make the water quality better too. Another thing with water and sewer, because we're only at 40% capacity of our sewer plant at this point in time, and we pump about 700 to 800,000 gallons a day with no leaks at our water plant. If we have leaks or issues, it's about a million or a little more. But we applied for a CDBG grant, which we received, which was almost $500,000, and we're putting in new water lines and sewer lines down Summit Street, which is an area on the back side of the city that the water lines are really old, and they're old galvanized lines, so it's going to be safer drinking water. You know, it's just going to be much better, and they'll have sewer in that area. I do have plans. It's time to apply for another CDBG grant, but we really need to get this one started before we went and ask for more money.
Okay, I asked your opponent this, and I asked other candidates. I want to ask the same question to everybody. When you take your oath of office, you swear, and I don't have the oath with me, but in some way you swear to be a good steward of the citizens' money and assets of the citizens, and what I like to say is the citizens of the city of Blue Ridge have 3 assets. Okay, not just Blue Ridge has 3 assets. The citizens own 3 assets, and as the mayor and being a good steward for the citizens, you need to get the most out of those assets for the people that live there. There's a marina, there's a drive-in, and there's a depot. And I went and did an open records request, and I've got the lease for all 3, so I don't, there's not anybody left out. These are the 3 assets, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the reason I bring it up is the marina pays, and it's in here, but I wrote it down over here. The marina pays $1,300 a month. Okay. Now, I don't know, I haven't done the research to see if that's parity to what the marina brings in income and so forth for their business, but they pay, obviously, somebody felt that the marina, and you did not enter in any of these leases. I wanted for the viewers, your name is not entered on any of these leases, but the marina pays $1,300 a month. The Scenic Railroad Depot pays $3,245 a month. And the Swan Drive-In, the 3rd asset, pays $500 a month. Now, before I say anything else and you answer, I have been to the marina, 4th of July fireworks, I've seen the boats, they're busy. I've seen the depot, that just the train never stops running. And I've seen the movies. I know some of the movies are not A movies, but I've seen movies where they're lined out on the weekend all the way down the highway trying to get in the theater. So in fairness to all three, I've not researched how much money they make. I've not done that. But they all three seem to be strong businesses in Blue Ridge. So all that being said, do you feel that it's fair to the citizens of Blue Ridge that in their three assets, the disparity that this is only $500 a month?
I don't think it's fair, the $500 a month. All three of those are our treasures. Those are three of the most important things for the city of Blue Ridge. They're also three of the things that the chamber promotes, and they're three of the things that our residents use and our tourists that come into town use. And I don't see how anyone can feel good about the drive-in lease. I don't think it's fair, and that's caused me a little bit of grief.
Well, what about the view that it's one of the last remaining drive-ins in Georgia, throughout the South? It is a great attraction. I'm very aware that there's a lot of people come from all over the place to enjoy all of Blue Ridge. They do, but they want to come and bring their family to see a drive-in movie, and they come to Blue Ridge on a Friday night, maybe spend the night. So what about the thought that the drive-in brings, just like ice skating, just like the train, the drive-in brings people in, and they're staying in motels, and they're eating here, and they're shopping on Saturdays. What about the value it brings outside of just the lease of the property? Is that not, that's an argument sometimes I hear.
Well, I think the fact, it is rare. There are not a lot of drive-ins left, but that doesn't make it, one of the things, we should have a fair market value lease. It doesn't make it to where you give something to someone because they're rare. Usually something that's rare is more valuable in some cases. So I can't determine the fair market lease amount that it should be, but there are people out there that can take the income amounts and look at the properties and do that. And I've asked for that to be done. Of course, I've met resistance with it. And just like the other leases, you know, Donna Whitener can't tell you that the marina lease is fair or the depot lease because I don't know the numbers. But they seem to be more in line with what they should be if you look at square footage and things like that and look at what other things are rented for. But this one's nowhere close.
Well, that's the only reason I bring it up. You called it the treasures, and I can't disagree with you. They're the three treasures that the citizens, and I like to stress that the citizens, the residents of Blue Ridge own.
They do.
Okay.
They don't belong to Donna Whitener personally. They are the residents.
Right.
Taxpayers.
And you know, and I look at this one is not quite, but it's almost a third of the marina. And there's such a difference in those, and I didn't know if this business just did not bring in the revenue enough for the owner of this business to be able to pay anymore. I don't know. I just think I have put this right here in front of every candidate that sat with me, so nobody can go and say that I picked you, Mr. Eaton. Every candidate that has sit down with me has looked at these and answered the same question.
Well,
so,
I hope every candidate had the same answer.
Well, you'll just have to watch and see.
Because we are charged with doing what's right for the taxpayers.
Absolutely,
in our,
absolutely.
And
but you don't think the drive-in,
to all, then you don't need to be a council.
So you don't think the drive-in amount is proper?
No.
Okay. All right. A couple more things before we close. Sales tax revenue in your term, has it gone up?
Yes.
Okay. Businesses have gone up, so if you've gone from 200 businesses over 3.5 years ago to 400 and some, can you share any of those numbers? You got any of those numbers off the top of your head?
Fortunately, I actually worked on the budget yesterday and our projections for sales tax, and we actually projected in sales tax numbers with Walmart. Walmart's predicted to do between 60 million to 65 million in a year, and we'll only see probably 6 months of that. Walmart is Their punch-out list is supposed to be finished by April the 1st, so I really look for them to be able to open either in May or June by the time they stock the store and staff it. So we actually even use those numbers for, I think, 5 months of the year at least. We gave ourselves a little cushion there. And sales tax numbers have been anywhere from 350 to about 370, 380. We're looking at almost $700,000 in sales tax. I think we plugged in the number $690,000, and we were very conservative with that. So we feel like we're going to see a tremendous increase next year, which I hope can be passed on to some benefit for our residents.
Well, let me ask you that, because I asked your opponent this. If so, since you've taken office, sales tax revenue has stabilized, because economically, 4 years ago, everything was in decline. I don't care where you were at, your number was red, and you were trying to figure out, no matter where you were out west or northeast or in the south, you were trying to figure out how to get the red number to turn into the black and go north. So since you've taken office, you're telling me sales tax revenue has stabilized and continued to grow, sales tax revenue.
Well, it had taken a turn. It had declined. But what we had to do in that decline was decrease the budget. So we didn't go in the red because we did some reductions. So that really kind of offset some of it. And our sales taxes increased again. So the city of Blue Ridge, unlike some other cities and counties, is okay financially. We don't have tons of money. We don't have money to waste, but we have money to make smart decisions. We can move forward.
So the sales tax revenue, how about hotel motel tax?
It's almost doubled. It's went from about $45,000 to almost $90,000. The one other tax that I want to mention that has changed a little bit, we've seen a decline in our beverage tax. And that happened when Blairsville added alcohol, when they put in package and pouring. It made a difference. Of course, by adding pouring downtown in our restaurants, we saw a little bit of, that number came back up a little bit, but we're still down. That's one of the...
In the beverage.
In the beverage tax.
But in general, the sales tax revenue, hotel motel taxes,
it doubled.
It doubled, and that has been a large part of helping through this economic downturn, the residents not having to pay an increase in property tax.
Definitely. It has kept property taxes low. And hopefully someday, you know, with Walmart and some increases there next year, I hope the council looks at doing some reductions in property taxes. They should.
I was going to ask you this, with figuring Walmart in and future projected growth of the city, was there a possibility of, you know, reducing taxes on the residents and, you know, maybe one day eventually getting rid of property tax? I mean, would your administration look at, before you increase your budget, reducing property tax?
Yes, I would. As a matter of fact, we talked about that yesterday, but because it's kind of hard to spend money that you don't have, and that money will come in the following year, so we really couldn't do anything in this year. Had Walmart opened as it originally planned to, which was in March of this year, they had some setbacks with some issues with the land and things like that. But had they opened, we could have even possibly looked at a property tax decrease, and I'm all about the decrease.
Well, I don't know exactly how, and it could take a while for you to explain it, but what I hear when I talk to residents of Blue Ridge and the business owners, the two communities, but I think the residents, not speaking for them, you may have a lot of them say, we know that without that downtown growth, our property tax would have went up. We know without that downtown growth, you know, we wouldn't have got the services. But would you make them a commitment that you will try to have a healthy balance between residents and keeping their town Blue Ridge and small town Blue Ridge for the residents, while business and things increase downtown? Are you committed to keeping that for the residents?
I was committed to doing that this 4 years, and I'll be committed to doing that again in the next 4 years. And the nice thing is I do have an open door policy, and most all residents have my cell phone number that want it, and they know if they call City Hall, they can always get me. My phone is with me almost 24/7. I don't take it in with me at church. and you know that because you tried to call me there. But that's the only time I don't have my phone with me, but I do get my calls after that. If they have concerns, all they have to do is pick up the phone and call me, and I'll listen to all concerns. They know I'm not going to get upset. I'm going to work through whatever. I've been doing that for 4 years. You know, if someone isn't happy with their neighbor, I'm the mediator. I'm the one that goes in and talks to both parties. Or if somebody's not happy with the way the grass was mowed by our employees, I go back out with our employees and say, you know, the side of the road that needed to be mowed, we should have looked at this. You know, so I'm hands-on. I'm there. I'm not always sitting behind a desk, but you can find me somewhere in the city of Blue Ridge most of the time.
How dedicated are you, or what kind of plan do you have on the parking issues for downtown?
Well, we actually hire, GMA has a program where they have some people that can come in and evaluate your parking issues. It's a good and a bad thing. Having a parking problem means that we have people that want to be in our downtown area or even out in the other parts of the area. We have the top street, which is not downtown, that has parking issues. But that means people are coming to Blue Ridge, they're wanting to buy things that are in Blue Ridge, they're wanting to eat in Blue Ridge, and they're wanting to spend their tax dollars. Spend their dollars here, and it equates to tax dollars for us. This group that is doing this survey and this study has a couple of groups that they're working with. I think they have 15 panels of groups that are working on parking issues and parking ideals. And they're the experts. They know how to fix it. They know how to make suggestions and recommendations. So I'm kind of excited to see what they come up with as a plan. You know, downtown is getting pretty congested in certain areas. There's a lot of places that it's really hard to get a parking place. And hopefully they're going to help us figure out how to alleviate some of those problems without hurting our sales tax base.
Well, I only have two more questions, and we'll close. The parking issue, I would have to say, if you don't have a parking issue, then people are not there, so they're not coming there. One last thing, as mayor for 4 years, what is the number one or the highlight of your administration, or what decision did you make in the last 4 years that you enjoyed the most, or just as a highlight in your term?
You know, I've been really fortunate in the 4 years. I've had lots of highlights. But I think the one, and it actually kind of started before I became mayor, but being mayor, it actually gave me the tools that I needed to make it happen. And that's creating some jobs. You know, I kept hearing people say, you know, I don't have work, I'm having to drive out of town to work. And the things that I've been instrumental in helping with are, Pulse Medical was one of the things that we've been talking about it for 10 years, her moving her business here. And once I became mayor and found out there were some vehicles to get her moved here, some things that Stephanie could do through the chamber office here, our economic development office. Got everybody put together, and I said, you've been saying you want to move to Blue Ridge, bring those jobs to Blue Ridge and let us help you do it. That's one of them. When I came into office, racetrack was off the books. They weren't coming to Blue Ridge, you know, and I said, we can't do that. We need them, got them on the phone, got them to come back and meet with us again a couple of times. They were a little hesitant, but, you know, I kept hammering, we want you in Blue Ridge, we need the jobs. We have 2, 3, 4 restaurants that have moved in downtown. That's created 200 plus jobs just in the restaurant industry, extra that we didn't have before since I've been in office. Actually, maybe more than 200 jobs, but Pulse Medical was about 45 jobs. Racetrack was 10 jobs. You know, if we can keep doing them in small increments, if you lose one, it doesn't hurt so bad. When you have something that employs 500 to 600 people and you lose that plant or that factory, it puts a lot of people in a hurt, and it's really hard to move those 500 people in, or to transition them into other jobs. So I think if we can keep building with 35, 45 people in factories or other types of businesses, I think we're on the right track, and we keep doing that. Now, Walmart will bring 330 jobs to the area, and I'm real proud of that too.
Yeah, one more question before we close. The SPLOST tax, Special purpose local option sales tax runs out in 2015. Do you support renewing that tax?
Most definitely.
And what would that mean to the citizens of Blue Ridge if that tax does not renew? And I want to be clear, it's not a new tax, it's a renewal of it. So
you're correct.
Right, so what would that mean if that does not pass?
If that did not pass, we wouldn't have the pot of money that I talked about, that we're paving roads for the residents in those areas and the patching and all of those things that we do. That would have to come from somewhere else. And, you know, if you don't have it in the SPLOST, it could have to come from property taxes. And I am not a fan of property taxes. I probably shouldn't say that on camera. It's one tax that I'm not crazy about at all. I know we need it for our cities and our counties to survive, but you know, we need it as minimal as possible too.
Yeah, but another thing also is, you know, for somebody that says, well, those people come in our town and drive on our roads, let them pay for it. They actually do, because the visitors, I think it's higher than 50%, but I'm going to use 50% of the SPLOST tax money is from outside the city.
That's correct. The SPLOST tax is that 1 cent. We get 6.3% of that 1 cent, and that does come from your sales tax dollars, but it's put into our SPLOST funding. So without that, you know, the money has to come from somewhere, and I would rather it be through our sales tax than through our property tax. That way it's passed on to everyone that uses the roads.
Okay, Mayor Whitener, is there anything today that you wanted to talk about or bring up that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with the voters before we close?
Just that I feel like the city's headed in the right direction. We've moved forward. We're a very progressive city, and we're ready for growth. We want to maintain it at a pace that is not going to be damaging to our city in any way, and I want to be there the next 4 years to help make that happen. I want to make sure that it's a good mix for the city residents and for the business owners.
Thank you, Mayor Whitener. I appreciate you very much. Brian Pritchard, FetcherNews.com, FYM reports, November 5th, don't complain, go vote. Don't be out there complaining about what's going on and you don't vote. Go vote November 5th, all right? There you go.